another cool instrument to talk about. This is an Ibanez RG2228, and it is one of the newer ones, so that means the neck is a little bit thinner than the old ones, and I think the body's a little bit thinner as well. What we've got here is a Galaxy Black guitar, and the camera is kind of hard to pick it up on video. In pictures it's definitely easier to see. And so this Galaxy Black coating hides a basswood body. We've got ourselves a maple neck with two Wenge strips here. We've got some Gotoh tuning machines. I think it's an ebony board, an enormous ebony board. We've got ourselves some Pearloid dot inlays, EMG 808X's, an Edge 3 bridge. Some very cool part rubber, part metal knobs here. A three-way switch, 8 strings, a locking nut for tuning stability, and there's also some KTS titanium stuff inside the neck to keep the tension right. And yeah, it's a huge behemoth of a guitar. So let's hear some stuff. So as you can hear, it does metal really well, and that's definitely because of the EMGs and because of the output that they deliver. It is a compressed signal, of course, and the friend who loaned me this guitar definitely wants to get rid of them, though he has modified this guitar to be on the 18 volt mod, so maybe the pickups will sound a little bit different than you are normally used to hearing. Alright, so in terms of the feel of the neck, I think it's pretty incredible, fairly flat, which used to worry me a lot because there was an Ibanez that I used to own, a 7-string, a 1527, and that neck was far too thin, and because this is even more enormous as it's an 8-string guitar, it worried me about the comfortability of the neck because that 7-string started to hurt my hand and I ultimately had to sell it. When you hurt, you shouldn't be playing your instrument. You should identify the reasons why. Now, this is also quite thin, but it is very comfortable for me and I've got fairly large hands. That being said, 8 strings are always going to be a bit of a pain in the neck to get used to, no pun intended. Just because they're so much bigger than 6s and 7s. I really do like having a really big guitar like this though. This is a 27-inch scale, this neck, and I love that. I like having some higher tension. A lot of people like to play loosey-goosey, and I really don't know why, because they look just as ridiculous as I just looked. And so anyway, I'm going to play a little bit more stuff on the clean channel to give you a sampling of that, and then from there we're going to move to a lead and then some final thoughts. So this is going to be on the neck pickup, and I'll switch as I'm playing. As you can hear, the EMGs do squash the signal quite a bit, but it still sounds quite lovely and pleasant. And because the bodywood is basswood and maple there, I mean, that definitely helps make it sound a little brighter. and keep it to a tonality which is hearable to the human ear. So I hope you enjoy that little bit of clean. I really like playing clean stuff on an 8-string. My friend Dean Murphy, who I did a little collaborative video with a few months ago, maybe even last year, is really great at that. So check him out. That's Dean Murphy, spelt the normal way that you hear it. So alright, let's go to a lead sound and have some fun. So it's kind of like a roaring monster, to be honest with you. EMGs have always been pretty great with the whole pinch harmonics thing. I'm sure that you noticed that. It sounded really enormous, kind of like a galaxy falling in space. Whoa. So yeah, I really like this guitar for lead stuff. So I definitely have to say a few words about the playability. It is a playable neck, like I was saying before. It is comfortable, it's thin. Ultimately what I would define it as, I don't know, a really shallow D, but comfortable because it's satin. It's not got gloss on it, which is a nice touch because gloss necks tend to make you feel kind of stuck, and we've all been there. So to continue, I think that for the price point of getting one of these used, it's definitely worth it. For paying $2,400-$2,500, be it in Canadian or American, I suppose, that's not really that worth it. For that price, you can start to get into some semi-custom builds, and I think that that's where this guitar is limited. EMGs being an instrument this big and then routing EMG pockets for a body leaves you to be kind of limited by your pickup options if that one certain pickup company doesn't offer that kind of soap bar sized pickup cover. So that's also kind of a pain in the neck. Also, I'm not really a huge fan of this, despite the fact that it probably does bring tuning stability together. I just am not really a fan of a locking nut in the first place. That's just a preference, a personal one. Other than that, all black, it's ready to go. I mean, my favorite guitar player and composer plays one of these things, and I'm sure that he isn't complaining about it because it definitely sounds good. And of course I'm talking about Ishan from Emperor, and he used it on his last couple of records, I think the last 2 or 3 records. And I'm going to play one of his riffs now that I really enjoy on the rhythm channel, on a different rhythm channel. The first one was a kind of a mesa-based thing. This is going to be a little bit more, a little harsher. You'll see what I mean. So this is the Friedman amp. This is one of my favorite amps on the Axe-Fx 2. And funnily enough, Tosin Abasi really likes it as well. So put that in your pipe and gent it. So as you can see, it does really big, scary chords pretty well. I'm really surprised at the note separation with the EMGs. Usually they don't separate that well, in my experience. So good on them, actually. It might not even just be because it's got the 18-volt mod in this guitar. Totally something I didn't expect. I think that's the word I'm looking for. I just didn't expect it to sound as good as it did with this mod. Now, I will admit that the tension's a little bit different from what I'm used to, so perhaps it sounds a little bit odd to a certain extent, but that's just because I'm not used to 8 strings as well. I haven't owned one. So ultimately for the quality, Ibanez Prestige stuff is renowned all over the world, and with good reason. This is definitely a fantastic instrument to compose with and to play around with and to experiment with. I think that EMGs do set this guitar back a little bit just because of the cut in the body that is a soap bar style. I'm just not that into that anymore. I've kind of changed my own personal preferences. So if I were to modify it, this is definitely purely an opinion thing now, if I were to modify this guitar, Either I'd put in one of the new EMGs, which are proven to be more dynamic, and I'd probably want to get like a white cover, much like Abasi, just because that looked really, really cool to me. Or I would just swap these out with something passive. Now, I can't forget to mention that there is something called an RG2228A, I believe, which does have passive pickups in it. I think they're DiMarzios, I could be wrong about that. And that is definitely a good alternative. And it also comes in white, so there is that option as well for you. But I think this guitar has definitely broken ground and is probably going to be a historically remembered instrument for the way that it was used when Tosin Abasi came onto the scene. It's definitely a history-making kind of guitar. So if you can grab one of these, and you can grab the newer ones or the older ones, it's up to you. I think that they're going to be regarded highly for a number of years. I hope you enjoyed this review. I definitely wish I could play more for you, but it's an interesting instrument to get used to, and I only had it for a week, so what am I gonna do? Life gets in the way. Sometimes you can't play every day. I wasn't supposed to rhyme. If you like this video, please subscribe and press the like on down below, or above the comments, no. And I'll see you around next time, YouTube.